Hello friends, this is Richard from DMK Chess. Today we're gonna discuss a game played between Mikhail and Gurgenidz. Before we start, I'd like to give a brief introduction about Mikhail. Mikhail was a brilliant Latvian Grandmaster who became the 8th World Chess Champion in 1960. I would say that he was the most exciting innovator ever to play the game. Tal revolutionized the chess world with an attacking style that completely overwhelmed the opponents. It was not so much the objectivities of his attacks that proved decisive, but his relentless psychological pressure and wild complexities just made opponents crumble. I want all of you to notice how many positional elements are involved in this blistering attack. d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5, e6. We call it Benko if we play b5 here. The Benoni is a risky opening for black. Knight c3, e takes d5, c takes d5, d6, knight f3, g6, e4, bishop g7, fianchetting the bishop, bishop e2, castle the king to safety, castles, rook e8, pressuring the e4 pawn, knight d2. So if we look at this position, white has a good central pawn structure, and in exchange black has a potential for queenside expansion, which will ultimately undermine the center, and also black's dark square bishop is potentially really strong. Knight a6. Okay, at first glance this move might feel strange, but Tal wants his knight to come to c7 and prepare for b5 advance to kick the knight on c3, then the e-pawn will come under attack. Rook a1, knight c7, a4. Typical of the Benoni stopping b5. Now we have two options to play, a6 and then followed by b5, or b6, a6 and b5. The problem with a6 is now white can play a5, which will stop the black's queenside play. b5 can't happen cause a takes b6 and passant. So Tal played b6. If you don't know the rule of en passant, I'll discuss that in later videos. Queen c2. Now most chess players, even if they are really strong, continue on with their plan a6, followed by rook b8 and then maybe b5. But here Tal feels with his incredible intuition that his opponent left some critical space behind. So Tal played knight g4. This is a vintage Tal decision. It's a move taking advantage of a tiny little imperfection possibly in the opponent's game and beginning a wild kingside attack. So white played h3. From this moment on, I want you to put yourself in Tal's shoes. If white takes on g4 with his bishop, then bishop takes g4, black has two bishops in an open game which will favor black. So white thought Tal wants to move his knight to the e5 square just to centralize, so he played h3. A deadly dare to give a guy like Tal. Now it's your move. Pause the video and try to guess what Tal played. Knight takes f2. Excellent. So if you think of this position logically, the white queen gave up the control of g4 square and also she left behind the defense of rook on e1. That's the kind of thing which always should trigger your mind a little. Whenever your opponent makes a move, what has he left behind? What has she left behind? What was hanging that wasn't hanging before? So in the last two moves, white has created a possibility for attack which wasn't there before. So now a guy like Tal will always look at it and leap all over it. He played the incredible aggressive sacrifice, knight takes f2. King takes f2, Tal played queen h4 check, giving white no time and attacking the undefended rook. And now you see white's position starting to teeter. King f1, only move for defending the rook, as if you play g3, this loses quickly as bishop d4 check, king g2, queen takes h3 check, king f3, bishop g4 check, king f4, g5 check, king takes g5, bishop e3, king f6, and now cap it off, queen h6 checkmate. You don't have to calculate all the way to mate, my friend. All you have to do is think step by step, bring the king deeper, force him further away from his defenders, bring him closer to my attackers. If you think that way, you will find the mate. It will come. King f1, bishop d4, threatening mate on f2. Now think you are defending in this position. Pause the video and make your move. Knight to d1. That's the only move you can do. Now you are Tal once again. Black to play. What do? Pause and see. Tal played queen takes h3. This is another vintage Tal move. The idea of course is after g takes h3, bishop takes h3 is mate. Don't forget the old rule. Often the threat is stronger than its execution. The threat of queen h1 or queen g1 is incredibly powerful because every move of white has to deal with that reality. The move queen h1 here would have been weaker cause it's forced. White can jump out of the way and here the tactics just don't work for black. The threat is always stronger than its execution. Queen h2 maintains a huge amount of pressure and tension over white's head. He played knight c3, a good defensive move. Now always keep in mind, whenever your opponent's king is stuck in the middle, open up the center. Open up the lines of attack. So Tall played f5. It's a patient move. You see, many players when they sacrifice a piece, they get nervous. They feel they have to prove everything right away. Win by force, checkmate, calculate things out, win back the material. Because they are not able to sit with the reality of being down in material. But here Tall is such a vintage beautiful attacker. He understands he has a compensation for the material. He has a building attack and he has no problem increasing the tension and sitting with it, making white suffer. Knight dc4, f takes e4, bishop takes e4. Now the f file is open. You may be thinking rook f1 check. Whenever you see a check, don't just do it. Remember, threat is always stronger than its execution. After rook f1 check, bishop back to f3, you moved your rook from e file to f file. Maybe it was better there. Tall played bishop to a6, coming from different angle. Now the knight on c4 is pinned, and the knight on e3 is under pressure by black dark square bishop. The white queen on c2 is an overloaded piece. It's guarding both c4 as well as e4. So Gurgenidz recognized that and played bishop f3. One more principle I want you to have in mind. Whenever you have a pin in a position, for example in this situation the knight on c4 is pinned to the white king, that tension is working in your direction. Your piece has tension on his piece, whereas his piece doesn't have tension onto yours. In general, unless there is a specific tactic that is winning material for you, you don't ever want to take this now, because the potential energy in this position is much better than the kinetic energy. In other words, what you are hovering in the air for the future is much more powerful than what could immediately be created by bishop takes c4. Anytime, any moment, in any combination, you have the option of taking that and your opponent has to constantly figure that into his calculation. So, don't remove that tension. Maintain it. Tall play rook e5. There are many reasons for this move. Firstly, the knight on c4 can't take since it's pinned to the king. Tall's actually planning on bringing his last piece into the attack, that is the rook on a8. Maybe by doubling up on the e file or taking control of the e file, which would be deadly. The rook on e5 can go to g5 or h5. You never know. Give your opponent as much as possible to think. White played rook a3, defending the knight on e3. Tall played rook a to e8. Gurgenidz played bishop d2, defending the e1 rook from the battery of rooks. Now if you look at it, every single one of white piece is defending and virtually every single one of black piece is attacking. But there is one piece in the black camp which is not that active, that is the black knight. So Tall played knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, rook takes d5. The knight can't take on d5 since queen g1 is made. Here white realized he was in a huge trouble and he started to run away with the king. All of his pieces are pinned down. They are all defending in the best possible position. The only thing to do is now for white to run his king away. King e2 to d1 to c1 to b1. If he can get away, then maybe he can survive. So he played the move king e2. So now you're Tall once again. This is the moment where you have built up the tension enough. All the tactics in the air are going to work out for you. Your move. Pause the video and work it out. Tall played bishop takes e3. When you build up this much tension on your opponent's game, the tactics become straightforward. Bishop take e3 can't happen cause queen takes g2 is made. So rook takes e3. Now here Tall played the first winning move, bishop takes c4 check. Now from this point on it's just delaying the inevitable. If queen takes c4, then queen takes g2 check, followed by king d1 and queen takes d2 checkmate. So after bishop takes c4 check, white had enough and he resigned. But let's just finish the game for the video's sake. So after bishop takes c4 check, the only move now is king to d1. Now the Tall will just trade the rooks. Rook takes e3, rook takes e3, queen g1 check, rook e1. Once more a quiet move will win the game. Queen to f2. King has to go to c1 now. Do you see the point for black now? This is why white resigned. Tall would play one more great move, bishop to b3. So you see, if queen takes b3, then queen takes d2 check, followed by king b1, and queen takes e1 wins the rook, and we can stop the game here. So the only move for white queen to defend the d2 bishop is queen c3. Now pause the video. You have a mate in 2. Don't move until you see it. Excellent. Queen takes e1 check, bishop takes e1, which is a forced move. Now cap it off, rook d1 checkmate. Wonderful job. This was an absolute beautiful game in which the whole attack was guided by positional principles. The truth is that virtually all attacks that succeed against a strong players have this type of principle core, even if that core is difficult to perceive by the untrained eye. So if you are a natural attacker and want to learn about positional chess, you can do so by careful study of positional elements of the greatest attackers like Tall. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Goodbye for now.